Hello YouTubers. Today we are going to be replacing my steering hose. Not the hose that's up here, not the high pressure hose that goes to the steering rack, but the one that's all the way down there that pretty much looks like this. So it goes, I'm sorry, I'm backwards. It goes like this. And this part connects to the, so this is the return hose or the return line, and then which basically connects to this one. This is the return that goes down here, that goes this hose right here, and I need to get a light, but it is this one right here, right there, and you can see some oil down there, and you can see it leaking right here, right in the front, right here. That's right underneath that hose. And you can see that hose is this one right here. This is the hose. It goes over, connects here, and then connects to the steering rack. It connects to the steering rack up here. So we'll have to loosen this up. Loosen the screw right here. And there's another screw under here, so we'll have to remove this plate. It's another screw right connected to this body member right there, and loosen the clamp that is not visible, but you can see it. So one clamp is connected to this, so we need to loosen the clamp here and pull it out. Remove this screw and put that in. Remove this screw and put that in. It's pretty straightforward if you have the right tools, because you'll need to reach in. Well, I don't know how to reach in to disconnect that, but I'm gonna give it a try. It's difficult for me to do it with the camera, so I'm gonna do the work and then talk about how I did it. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm gonna do is remove this plastic apron, which are these bolts right here. I believe they're 10mm. So I'm going to remove those and then see how it looks like on the inside. I believe I just have to remove this one. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so you'll need to remove the apron that's here, which is this. It's basically held by three bolts I should say. And one bolt is actually behind this fender, but I actually lost this, so I only have two bolts. I only have two bolts in mine. I lost the third one, but this is where this fender is, like so. You have to remove that. And once you remove that, you can see this line that we're going to replace. You can see the screw right there, the bolt. You can see the bolt right there. So you have to reach in like this to remove it. I don't know what size it is. I have to figure out what size it is. But the harder part is going to be disconnecting the line, reaching in there and pulling it out, and I don't know, it's going to be tough to do that. You can't see from underneath, so unless you're standing underneath it, but it's going to be tough to remove that line. So I've got to figure out how to remove that line. It may be easier to remove this line, this hook right here, take the whole thing out and then put it back in. Maybe that's what I'll do that. Okay, so I removed the two bolts, one that was here at the 10mm bolt where my finger is. As you can see, it's nice and clean over there. So that's this bolt right here. It's 10mm. That's holding this line. And then the other one, as I mentioned, it is right there. You could also see the clean part. And in order to remove that, I created this long extension. By the way, here's the other 10mm bolt. It's all rusted and whatnot, and I used some penetrating blaster to unbolt a little bit, and I used this, just a bunch of extensions, and I basically went in from the top, unscrewed it, and then pulled it out. So that's what you'll have to do for that one. I tried to do it from here. I was not able to do it. So now this line is basically loose, as you can see. What's required is to remove. So the new one I got has this cable as well, so it makes best to remove the clamp up there, yeah, so there's a clamp right there. I'm looking at it sideways. There's a clamp right there, or I could remove this clamp, which probably maybe easier for me, and then remove the bolts up on top. So let's go ahead and remove the bolts up on top. We will start with, I guess we will start with this one. So this one, again, this is also a 10 millimeter. For some reason they're all pretty much 10 millimeters. Yeah, and stick another extension on it. Why not? Actually, I could just use this long one, but whatever. Just gotta make sure you just don't drop it. Okay, so that's the top one. Put that in there. And then we'll have to remove this one on the side right here to loosen up the cable. And obviously the rest is just, you know, removing this clamp. I'm also looking to remove all of this, just clean it out. To remove the steering fluid, I think it's unbolting this. To remove the coolant holder, I believe it's unbolting this. And I have these very thin ratchet ones. I'll show you when I bring it out. And I'm going to use those to remove those. But the harder part is figuring out how to remove that bolt. I might try a wobble, or I might just go for the straight 10 millimeter. I guess with the this is too long because it literally hits against. If I do this, it literally hits against the side. You know what? Let me just try it. Yeah. So this is too long. I'm going to end up hitting the alternator wheel. So I need something smaller. Okay, I was able to just remove this without loosening the screw, just lift it up, it comes right out. And I believe even this one also, based on looking at it, I could just remove it just by lifting it. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't have to remove that screw, or maybe I have to remove these screws, remove the bracket, and then remove. Anyway, I'll figure that out later. But in order to remove this screw right here, this bolt right here, I'm just using one of these ratchets, and you know, loosening it, it works pretty well. So, alright, cool. Please don't drop, please don't drop, please don't drop, please don't drop. Okay, well, the washer makes it secure. Okay, so we got that bolt out. Alright, after a great deal of effort, I was able to take out the lower hose. The great deal of effort coming from disconnecting this metal hose, which is part of the lower steering return hose, with the upper rubber hose that's in there. I had to put one of the screws back so that the top part of the hose, which is up here, is secure. I did not put this screw back, but I did put the other screw back right here so that this is secure. And then I just yanked it out of the bottom hose. I hope it's not too difficult to put it back in. You really have to put the clamp back, you really have to get underneath the car to pull the clamp back down, holding it and putting it down. So that's going to be a challenge. Like I said, I was hoping to remove the whole thing, but I was not able to get the top part of the hose out. That reminds me, if you ever have to remove the top hose, let's say it needs to be fixed, that's going to be quite a challenge, because you have this metal, I guess it's the air conditioning line or something. There's the big one and then the skinny one underneath it. And I don't want to damage those pipes by removing this, because I believe that's part of the air conditioning line. So it's a very time-consuming job to remove the hose. It's getting dark, so I'm going to stop recording and put the new one back in. You know, it's done the same way. Although this new one came with the rubber hose that gets mounted to the return line back there, I am just going to connect to the existing rubber hose that I have right here, not use a new one. And again, as you can see here, this U-shape somehow has been rusted. I have no idea how it got rusted, but it's been over years. As you can, water damage, I am guessing, from over the years. I don't know how. I'm gonna put the new one back in, and hopefully I won't have to mess with it again. Alright, thanks for watching. Once you put the new one back in, obviously you'll have to put the steering fluid in and make sure there's no air in the steering fluid. So you'll have to make sure, you know, that there's all the air comes out and the fluid comes out, and then you can put it back to the return. That's what I plan on doing. But thanks for watching. So here's a picture of the old one and the new one. It pretty much lines up perfectly. As you can see, it was getting rusted over here. It's a 14-year-old car, so I am guessing, you know, a 13-year-old car. But I'm going to use the existing hose, not use the new one. I wish I could have used the new one, but it was all the way back there, so I'm just going to remove this hose and use the existing one. The hardest part obviously is going to be putting this back into the upper hose, so that's going to take some effort, and then position the holes and screw these in. But obviously we're going to do the clamps first and connect up the hose. Okay, I was able to secure the pipe back to the hose clamp. Did the hose clamp over there, and I also did the hose clamp. There's a lot of oil or whatever. I also did the hose clamp. Here you could see the green line. The green line is the new steering line, and I also connected the hose clamp back to the hose. I have this bolt in. I still need to do that bolt. Obviously, connect this back up, and I still have to do the bolt for this one. I have to, like, because, you know, with the light you could see the hole with the reflection. This one's kind of tough to see, so I have to feel it with my finger and put that bolt back on. And once the two bolts are in, then the bottom line will be secure. Then I'll do the top line and then put in fresh steering fluid, which is actually Dextron 3 transmission fluid. So I'll show the transmission fluid, but it's actually transmission fluid, not steering fluid. Even though it says power steering fluid here, it just tells you this is where the power steering fluid goes, but the actual fluid is transmission fluid.